Hey everyone, welcome to the first of our daily devotionals for 2021. We're going to start out for a few weeks looking at what are known as the five little scrolls of the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament. The Hebrew Bible has a actually different order than what we have in our English Bibles. And so it puts these five books together of Song of Songs, Ruth, Lamentations, Ecclesiastes, and Esther. And so we're going to look at those. And so we get to start with Song of Songs, which is, a fun place to start. Talk about something, that has some sex appeal instead of looking at something like Lamentations at the beginning of a new year. Now, I prefer to call this book Song of Songs rather than Song of Solomon. And the reason for that is I don't think Solomon wrote it. This is not just me, there's plenty of scholars that think that's probably the case, even though it's associated with him. One of the reasons is we know that Solomon had over 700 wives. And so the idea of him writing love poetry to one of them, I don't know, it feels kind of meaningless, right? But even the book itself points towards this. You go to the last chapter, in chapter 8, there's a couple verses where the male voice is saying, Solomon, he has thousands of vineyards, but I'm happy with just my one, right? Vineyards there are clearly a metaphor for the beloved. And so that makes this more meaningful to think that it's actually from someone who was committed to one person. So who did write it? Well, we don't know. And one of the interesting theories could be that it was actually written by a woman. If you look at it, over half of the book comes from a female voice. So whether or not a woman wrote it, it's very much elevating a female voice. And she isn't just speaking, she's actually taking the active role a lot of times. She says what she wants. I think that's an important contrast to what we often see in Christian culture that says women need to be passive, women need to be desireless, and men are the ones who are supposed to pursue women. Well, the book of the Bible, it's all about romance, does the opposite. So maybe we should take our cues there. Another thing about Song of Songs is that, as that title suggests, it's a collection of songs or poems about love. It's not really a cohesive, chronological narrative story, which helps us understand, why does it seem like sometimes they're together and married, sometimes it seems like they're not, and it goes back and forth. Well, it's not trying to put it in this order, it's just kind of collecting all these different love poems together. And the final thing I would say is, well, it is what it seems to be. At least we need to start there, that this is love poetry between a man and a woman. Because I think a lot of times the interpretation we've heard is, well, actually, no, it's about Christ and Christ's love for the church, or it's about God's love for Israel. Well, that you can understand it in that sense, and there's been a lot of mystical writers that have done some interesting things there, but any application to God's love for us, I think, should be secondary. Right? It's common, but there's no indication in the book that there's some hidden meaning to it. We'll talk more tomorrow about why we've so often done that. I think what we see and what we'll talk about this week is that earthly, human, romantic love is a good thing. And it points us to the love that God has for us, but it starts by being good between us. So, hope you're excited.